Welcome and hello. My name is Lukas Forst, and welcome to our Hitchhiker's Guide through Domain Name System. These are DNS tales, the Bizzare records, or the story of 5 billion domains. My name is Lukas Forst. This is my co-founder, Martin Řepa. We are from a company called Reconwave. What we do is basically, it is our job to know when our customers deploy a new application, new server, new domain, and everything around DNS. So, who can tell me all top-level domains, right? I can, basically, organization. But Reconwave can tell you all the top-level, all the domains. Our job is to scrape all the DNSs there are, and to know everything that is going on in this system. In this talk, we will deep dive into our dataset. We will show you some of the most bizarre things that we saw from cooking recipes to malware, and then we will go a bit more into more security-related things.
Okay, so thank you guys for coming to our talk. Sometimes people start their talks with a joke, so I'm gonna also start with a joke, which is two antennas met on a roof, fell in love, and got married. The ceremony wasn't much, but the reception was excellent. So, yeah. Now you might be wondering, how is this relevant to the talk, right? Well, this is actually a DNS record. This is a TXT record of the following Finnish domain called 24-7.fi. So those of you who has your laptops open, you can verify this with this command right now. All the records that we are going to be showing in this talk, they should still exist, so you can be verifying this while we talk. But a small disclaimer is that we don't actually know what applications are hosted on all of these domains, alright? So if you are visiting them, just please be responsible for your actions. So and before we show you more of these interesting records that we found, let me just very briefly go through the DNS background. I guess most of you are familiar with it, but just for the sake of clarity. So DNS, sometimes called as the phone book of the internet, right? I like to call it the biggest, eventually consistent distributed database in the world. And the primary use case is pretty simple, right? I want to translate domains into IP addresses. But actually, DNS hides a lot of other features and use cases. So now you can ask yourself if you could actually guess how many types of DNS queries there are. And the answer might surprise us, because interestingly, there is not even an official answer to this question, because we are talking about definitely more than 80, but maybe more than 100. So there are a lot of DNS types, but in this talk we are going to be talking almost exclusively about TXT record type. So what is a DNS TXT record? Well, basically it allows you to store any text value, right? And if you allow people on the internet to store any text value, they will store literally any value. And why? Because they can, right? So this is where the fun will begin. But before we go to that, of course, there are legitimate use cases for the TXT records, right? So for example, you can verify ownership of the domains to third parties, or security features of email infrastructure is based on top of DNS TXT records. But so back to what we did is, as Lukas already suggested, what we do at Reconwave is that we are scraping a lot of open source intelligence sources to discover attack surface of our customers. Right now we have more than 5 billion of unique host names, and we are also resolving them and indexing them and keeping history of all of them. So once I was sitting and I was thinking, what if I try to search for some known keywords in the TXT database, right? There must be some Easter eggs hidden by people. And oh boy, there are. So we are going to show you some of them. First, we will show you just generally bizarre records, and we will move towards more security-related, but also bizarre records. So, what else are TXT records used for? So, come on, it's internet, so porn, yeah, obviously. So there's a lot of porn TXT records, but we are not going to be talking about it and showing it. We are not going to this level, all right? But, so what else? So, for example, there are a lot of YouTube links. For example, this specific one, there are literally hundreds of occurrences of this specific YouTube link. So maybe you can try to guess where this takes you, but I guess a lot of you already know. Yeah, I saw the dance. Okay, so it's Rickroll. We are never gonna give you up. So what else did we find? So, for example, recipes. Yeah, of course, DNS is also a cookbook, right? The best chocolate cake recipe in the world. And actually, if you follow the link, you really get a nice TXT file with a chocolate cake recipe, including the ingredients and icing and everything. I didn't try it, though. Okay, so what else? Maybe love diaries? Yeah, sure. I miss you and I miss you a lot, and I fucking love you, Eva. I love you, Mandy. I guess this is not what the authors of the original DNS RFC in 1983 anticipated, but this is the reality. The next one, this is my personal favorite and the first one I found. So this is Gabe. Gabe was having a bad day, as you can read yourself, and he opened his heart to a DNS. And so the camera is there, right? So this is for you, Gabe. If you are watching this, I want you to know that we've all been there. I hope you got your work done. I feel you. And I want you to know that somebody did actually find your message, and now literally hundreds of more people are watching this. So another proof that if you actually put something on the internet, it eventually becomes public. Okay, so then what about source codes? Yeah, sure. You know, so here you can see a Python snippet. It's processing some spreadsheets because, you know, why not, right? Or HTML. Yeah, sure. In this record, you can find iframe to Canva. Because who needs GitHub and GitLab, right? When you can make a new subdomain for a new commit. And, but I guess someone had his reasons. Then, completely random records, I didn't know how to call them, but Internet Classic, Epstein didn't kill himself. This one is also a good one, so Laurie was here, contact me and I will buy you a beer. So, Laurie, this might get expensive for you, because we didn't claim a beer, but all of you, you can. So this is the domain. I guess you could find a contact for Laurie. Last one, another link. So it's a link to Pastebin, which I guess most of you know. So there are a lot of links to Pastebin. We didn't actually manage to go through all of them. But I decided to include this one particularly, just for the fact that if you actually go there, you can see that 73 unique visitors visited the link. So, assuming this is the only occurrence of the link on the internet, it's actually pretty impressive that I'm not the only one who found it, right? Quite a lot of people found it. So, as I said before, if you post something online, even to a TXT record, people will find it. Okay, so now we are moving more to the security-related bizarre records.
All right, so people seem to love PowerShell, right? Like a lot of us do or have to use it. It turns out that people are actually using TXT records as somewhat a copy-paste. You know, you don't have a direct connection between your servers, so you just push it directly to TXT, resolve it on the other side of the world, and just run it. So, for example, here's some administrator trying to install Windows Autopilot info and join some group. We have also another one. This one is encoded, but this is actually very simple base 64, some PowerShell downloading strings from local network, and there are so many of these like that. But This one is also super interesting. This is PowerShell, but this one is sort of like a recursive one. When somebody wrote a program that recursively goes and explores whatever there is on this domain and these domains. And there's a whole like a script that gets executed only through resolving TXT data. Honestly, I was quite impressed how people are actually very resourceful in terms of what they are putting into public DNS. But also malware loves DNS, right? It's pretty established that malware is using DNS for exfiltrating data, also for command and control. We caught this one very benign sounding name illegalwebsite.com that actually has PowerShell that downloads CryptoJack. CryptoJack then elevates its privileges and then installs something which is called Minergate. Super interesting stuff. So many of these in public record. You can just go and search for them. Very nice. But it also turns out that there are people that are trying to break whatever we are doing because they are putting command injections into text data. So we got obligatory Bobby tables on this domain. Yeah, with very nice strip. Everybody knows it. We love it. We also have, clicker is not working. Yeah. We also have, Log4Shell. Awesome. Also very nice. Our servers are not written in Java, so we are good. But, Log4Shell. Interesting stuff. Also, cross-site scripting. Like, definitely all of that, hopefully we were not vulnerable to cross-site scripting, but that would be very, very interesting to see. The more important thing that I wanted to talk about today is why people are putting very private data and secrets into public record, into public DNS. So we find a lot of secrets. For example, API keys. We got Stripe API key. Hey, nice. We do not publish the domain because the Stripe API key is actually still active. I mean, it's a test one, but still, sorry, you have to go and find it yourself. You can see also Python code. Why do people put Python? I don't know. We also found a Porkbun API key. That's a hosting and domain provider. But we also find something like very, very interesting. So when we ran our database for RSA private keys, like how many records do you think we could find? Because at the beginning I thought, okay, like people are people, we make mistake, we just copy key, put it somewhere, and it might have been the wrong key. However, what kinda was interesting for us was that there's over 1,000 unique records of RSA private keys in the public DNS data. Now, this does not look right. People are just, mistakenly typing it into a wrong window in their DNS provider. So we actually went and tried to search how and why it might make sense. And it's like very controversial, but I'm gonna claim today that for some people, for some companies, it might actually make sense to put a private RSA key into public domain DNS record. So for example, here is private key, here's a website. We are not censoring it because it's fine. We think it's fine anyway. Okay, so what is RSA? RSA, everybody probably knows, is a public key cryptography. So very basically, you have public and you have private part of the key. So when you want to encrypt something, you encrypt it with public and decrypt with private. If you want to sign something, you sign it with private and verify signature with the public one. In DNS, we use RSA in something which is called DKIM, or a Domain Key Identified Mail. It's very basically, again, technology to use to sign email, so you can actually verify that this email was sent by this domain. You can try, again, like this is a public key. Okay, we did not make the mistake. It's a public key. But only public keys can ever be published, right? We can agree on that. Now, why are private keys actually private? When only you know it, only you could have used it. So there's a guarantee that any signed material was actually signed by you, or actually by anyone who is holding that key, right? So what happens when you publish your private key? The guarantee no longer applies, and anyone can actually use it. So anything that was signed after the key was published cannot be trusted. Given the nature of DNS, you cannot prove when this key was actually published, which means that even the previous signatures of all emails are actually invalidated. So you can never prove that somebody signed it before. How is this property useful? So you invalidated all signatures, you don't know what actually happened. Well, it turns out that if you do shady business, not necessarily shady business, but if there is a court hearing and you go there and somebody points an email into your face and say, hey, you wrote it, there's a digital signature. But you published your private key, you can just say, oh, no, sorry, I did not write that. My private key is a part of a public domain. Somebody could have used it. So plausible deniability, people, okay? Security, plausible deniability, this is something very resourceful and very useful for all of us. Of course, publishing private key can be also used when you are rotating your domain key identified private keys and your own cryptography. But usually, from our experience, from what we found, most of these domains that have their private key published are somewhat related to financial companies, to investment funds. How is that possible? I don't know, maybe coincidence, we don't know.
Okay, and so lastly, we would like to show you one more Bizzare record and domain. It's actually the one that you see below the title. So it's disk.vhd.gz.base64.grahamc.com. So I guess a lot of familiar words, right? You can see that. This is what it resolves to, some string. So I did what all of you would do, right? You fire up bash and you start your pipeline. So first you remove the apostrophes. You decode the base64 encoding. So you get some binary blob. So you also decompress it. And then finally, you put it into the file tool to see what you got, right? So what we found is a Microsoft disk image. So this is actually a virtual disk that is literally stored in one TXT DNS record by, actually let's give credit to the owner of the domain, which is Graham Christensen. He's a famous contributor to the Nix OS. Unfortunately, this is quite my nemesis because I didn't manage to get inside. My conclusion is that the disk is empty. There is no partition inside, but I could be wrong. So you can see the domain. You could take this as another scavenger hunt of this conference, and you can try to get inside. Maybe there is an Easter egg. Like if I was putting this into the DNS, I would put inside an Easter egg. As I said, I was not able to get inside. If you get inside and read some files, please tell us. I'm very curious what's there, but I think there is no partition. All right, so this is the end of our short talk. Thank you all for listening to us. There is a little bit bonus for you. You can try to take a picture or resolve it right now, these domains. Also, if you would like to hear more DNS related stuff, we are trying to post interesting blog posts into the reconwave.com/blog. It's below in the right bottom. I know it's not really visible for you guys in the back. And if you have some questions, we would like to answer anything. Also, thank you. Also, if you have some idea what keywords, for example, to search for in the TXT dataset, you can come up to us after the talk, and we can do it right now in our laptops. It's pretty fast. We have the results in seconds, so we can have fun.
Thank you so much, people. It's great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.